Hi folks, on this edition of Rockposer Chats, I'd like to welcome a multi-instrumentalist, I think would be probably the right way to describe him, and it's none other than Mr. Ron Coolen. Welcome to Rockposer Chats.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, Ron, you've had a busy year, to say the least. Obviously, the album Rise has done very, very well indeed. It had some cracking reviews from all across the internet.
Yeah, correct. And and I was really happy with that. You know, I I worked for 3 years on this album, which has been a lifelong dream of mine to have this own CD, you know, this own album with my own music. Took me quite some years to finally get started, and then worked 3 years on it. Released it in 2020, 1st of March, which was kind of the worst timing I could ever do because 2 years ago we had Corona and it was terrible all over the place. But yeah, you know, that's how things happen.
Well, Ron,
I remained very busy this year because I've still... Yeah?
Well, Ron, I was going to say, I mean, the lineup of people that you got to participate with you on this album, it really is a who's who across the spectrum of hard rock. When you've got the likes of Goran Edman, you've got the likes, obviously someone who's been very instrumental in vocals for you, obviously Keith St. John, and then people like George Lynch. I mean, how did you hook up with these people?
Yeah, in total I had 12 guests that delivered a guest contribution, and it kind of happened. You know, from the beginning I knew that I needed to have other people to work on this album as well, because I can't sing and I cannot play a decent guitar solo, so I knew I had to find people to do that. I didn't want to form a band because I've been in bands for years and I was kind of fed up with, you know, band democracy, and
Sure.
so I decided to make it a solo project and hire people for the things that I don't master. So I needed vocalists and I needed solo guitarist. And actually, well, the first one I got on board was Christopher Amos. And since I had my own radio show for 10 years, from that radio show, I knew Christopher because I've interviewed him a couple of times, and we always remained in touch. So he was the first one to get on board. And from that moment on, I just gradually build on that, and by finding new musicians and ending up with a great lineup. Yeah, I must admit, of 12 people.
I guess you probably sit back now and sort of pinch yourself at the realization of what you've managed to achieve.
Yeah, I pinch myself many times, you know, across the whole project, because I'm really a fan of all the people that are on my album. You know, I've listened to George Lynch ever since I was a kid. You know, and I even took the cover of the Dokken albums. I took them to my barber and say, you know, you need to cut my hair just like George Lynch. That was how how much a fan I was of George ever since I was a kid, and how he was on my album, and actually giving me a call in the middle of the night at the moment when he submitted his guitar solos. So yeah, it's kind of surreal, you know, but it's something I could get used to, I must say. But it was really surreal.
I'll say, I mean, obviously Keith St. John is continuing his collaboration with you, obviously for new singles that have come out, and obviously for future endeavours as well.
Yeah, and let's say there are two kinds of contributions. You have the people that just do their job, and they deliver a solo or they deliver a song and and are not very involved. And there's Keith, and Keith is really involved. He was really involved as well, and he he was very committed by, you know, giving, not just doing his parts that I asked him to, but also, you know, giving advice, giving tips. He had a very good preference of how he wanted his vocals to end up on the album, so he was involved in the mixing process as well, in the arrangements. He was very involved, so he was very committed to the project. And actually, the moment the album was released, we continued working together, and the cooperation with Keith is getting more and more intense because I'm working with him, still working with him on new songs now, and he will be very prominent on the next album. So yeah, Keith is really the one who was most involved in the whole project.
I mean, Keith brings with him obviously years of experience. I was actually lucky enough to see him sing twice this year on Monster Rock Cruise. Obviously, once with Burning Rain, and obviously with Kingdom Come as well. And thankfully, considering how long he's been in the business, he's a gentleman who can still absolutely hold a note.
Yeah, exactly. I love his voice. I really love his voice, and also what I learned from him. I was a pretty inexperienced songwriter, and Keith is very experienced, and it's amazing how he can, read a song or read an idea and turn it into a arrangement with a logic build-up. And that's a skill that is really incredible, and I learned a lot from him, and he has improved a lot of my new songs with adjustments to the arrangement. So yeah, he's really incredible, and very experienced indeed.
So will you be going for a follow-up album, or are you just going to continue with singles?
Well, I'm working on a new album, so my plan is to release a second album mid 2021, I hope. So that will be a full album. I'm not sure what the release strategy will be, whether I will do first a couple of singles and then the full album. But the goal is to work on a new album. And basically, COVID was a reason for that as well, since everything closed down and there were no shows possible, I immediately after the release started writing new songs, taking advantage of the moment. So yeah, I just go for a new album, and I've got incredible guests and for that. So yeah, I just continue one off.
So let's take you all the way back. What got you into music in the first place? Was there a particular track or song or artist which was sort of lit the trigger paper to you, sort of be not just enjoying music, but to want to become a musician yourself?
Yeah, I think as far as my memory goes back, I think my first albums I listened to were Dire Straits and were Gary Rafferty and Boston, Santana. And then when I really got into heavy music was when I heard Whole Lotta Rosie by AC/DC. So you can kind of see how old I am. And I grew up on AC/DC, and it was Van Halen. And then I saw the whole new wave of British heavy metal movement coming up. So that's where I really turned into heavy music. And it was really intense, And then I started playing drums when I was about 17, 18 years old, forming a band. And actually, I played drums for all my life. And then 6 years ago, I played drums in bands also, mostly tribute bands and cover bands throughout the years. And then 6-7 years ago, I switched to guitar because it was also a lifelong dream of mine to play guitar, but I just didn't get my head around it when I was young. It just didn't work.
Right.
But then I thought, I learned guitar, and I did that 6-7 years ago, and yeah, here I am. Now I call myself not a drummer anymore.
Obviously, people sort of raise an eyebrow when they hear about Dutch music, but there is a great heritage behind it. I mean, apart from, I guess people will pick the obvious bands, but I mean, I guess the first Dutch band apart from Vandenberg which I ever came across was Vengeance, and I've been a fan since the first time I ever heard them. So there is a good legacy.
Oh yeah, Vengeance is incredible. It's really incredible, and I think Vengeance was much better than Vandenberg. At least I like them more. Really like the energy and the songs, and they brought Arjen Lucassen, who is now in Arian. He started originally in Vengeance. They're a really good band. So yeah, I fully agree with you. We had Picture, we had Highway Child, Heloise. We kind of had quite a big Dutch scene in those days.
I was lucky enough to see Vengeance at the Marquee back in the late '80s, and it certainly left a mark. Because to say their frontman is a character is probably an understatement.
Yeah, absolutely, he is.
But a fantastic band indeed. Well, Ron, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thoroughly enjoyed Rise. Great album, what I will call traditional hard rock, which I'm glad that people are still releasing music like that, because there is a market for it. Certainly there is with me, certainly. Looking forward to hearing what you got planned for the second album, and I wish you all the best for the future.
Yeah, thank you, Dan, for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you, and glad you liked my album. Really like that, appreciate that, and stay tuned for new music in the next year.
Lovely stuff. Ron, you take care, and hopefully I'll speak to you again next year.
Yeah, we will. Thank you, Dan.